The boy came home from school and found his stepmother had placed two identical pots on the stove. One pot had no meat in it, while the other was filled with meat. The pot full of meat was for his stepmother and sister, and all he ever got to eat was just a few scraps of meat. Because they weren't blood relatives, the boy was neglected. Every day, the meals he ate were treated differently. The boy was furious and swore that once he became successful, he would definitely get revenge on his stepmother. 15 years passed, and the boy became a big boss. After all these years, the man still missed only the potato stew his birth mother made for him. He heard that Kagawa restaurant could help customers find the taste from their memories, so he came with great expectations. The man told the owner's daughter that his sole food was the potato stew his mother made for him as a child. Unfortunately, his mother had passed away when he was 5. He vaguely remembered that compared to ordinary stew, his mother's potato stew had a reddish color. Every time he ate this dish his mother made, a mountain landscape would appear before his eyes. But recreating the taste of his mother's potato stew based on just these two pieces of information would be extremely difficult. Early the next morning, the father took a boat to the man's hometown to find answers. On the way, he warmly shared his lunch with an elderly passenger on the same boat. This small gesture brought him considerable rewards. With the old man's enthusiastic help, the father learned the local method of making potato stew. Unfortunately, after searching all day, he still couldn't find the mountain landscape or the slightly reddish stew the man had mentioned. He found the man's stepmother's house and decided to visit this biased mother. 2 weeks passed, and the man came to Kagawa restaurant as promised. The father and daughter warmly served the potato stew they had prepared. The man picked up a piece of meat and put it in his mouth, savoring it carefully, just like when he was a child. After he finished eating, he said unhappily that this wasn't his mother's taste at all, but was exactly the same as what his stepmother made. After saying this, he turned to leave, but the owner stopped the man, wanting to tell him the story of the potato stew. 2 weeks ago, the owner found the stepmother. After her daughter got married, she was alone guarding the house. The father told her about the man's search for his mother's taste, and the stepmother gave the owner a notebook. The man had been a picky eater since childhood, so his birth mother had specially written down the recipes he liked. When she became seriously ill, she gave this notebook to the man's stepmother. Looking at the familiar photos and his mother's handwriting in the notebook, tears welled up in the man's eyes. Looking at the potato stew recipe, at the bottom was written the name of a beef can product. The pronunciation was similar to the word for mountain, which is why in the man's memory, he associated it with mountain landscapes. The reason his mother's meat had a slightly reddish color was because the man had disliked carrots since childhood, so his mother would specially mash the carrots up. Later, when his stepmother was taking care of him, the man had already accepted carrots, so his stepmother would cut the carrots into small pieces. This was why the two stews had different colors. The man took a bite, and indeed it was his mother's taste. The owner also told him that back then, the two different pots, one with meat and one without, the empty one was waiting for the man to come home before adding the canned beef. The meat from the canned beef would become somewhat shredded after cooking. His stepmother hadn't been biased at all, but had been protecting his birth mother's wishes all along. These two potato stew recipes were their shared legacy. Although he had never returned since graduating from high school, his stepmother cleaned his room spotlessly every day. In this recipe book, his stepmother had also added many new recipes because as the man grew up, his tastes were changing too. The man resolved the misunderstanding that had lasted for years and wept bitterly.